Hi, and welcome to the Rowe Team Monthly Real Estate Update, and this is for August 2023. And again, we're seeing a bit of a mixed market here. I think some of the articles that I'm going to show you and some of the data that I'm going to show you today will actually seem to counteract each other. And I think that's because we're just in a transitionary market at the moment and nobody really knows 100% which way it's going. But let's dig right into it. First, let's take a look at an article from CNBC. And this article talks about the S&P Case-Shiller Index, which is a index of real estate prices. It's pretty widely used. And it says that the index rose for the third straight month, and we're only 2.4% below the peak of 2022. Now that's a little bit different than some areas are showing in terms of price declines, but that's what the Shiller Price Index says, and it's a very reputable index to take a look at. Now this next article from MarketWatch is a little more bold, and this article declares that the real estate recession is over. And it believes that because home prices rose 0.3% in June versus an expected decline of 0.5%. Now this article also expects the mortgage rates for 2023 to be about 6.4% and to go down in 2024 to 6%. Currently we're hovering right around 7%. So I guess it expects that the mortgage rates are going to come down over the next 3 months. It also talks about new home sales surging in May, but probably getting a little bit cooler in June. And another article that backs up the idea that home builders are pretty optimistic. And in this article, they talk about home builder housing starts rising to an annualized rate of 1.45 million per year. And that's an increase from where it was in June of 1.4 million per year. So that's a 3.9% increase. Now, home builders tend to be on the more conservative side. So again, I think we're seeing some of the articles talking about the real estate market going to be doing well very shortly here, but I can tell you that locally things have really quieted down. And I think you'll see some statistics that indicate the market seems to be in a transitionary period. So now let's take a look at one of the key drivers for the last year, and I think will continue to be one of the key drivers in the real estate market in the foreseeable future, and that's mortgage rates. As you can see here, mortgage rates did dip a little bit in the beginning of this year. However, they've been rising a little bit in the last few months, and this month are actually hitting 7% and over 7%. Now that's a rate we haven't seen in a long time. I think that's really going to have a dampening effect on the market overall, as those that don't have to move really aren't going to want to move because they'll have to pay a lot more for mortgages. Plus, if you remember in the last report last month, the majority of Americans that are homeowners are locked in at rates much, much lower than this. I think until rates begin to decline, you're going to see a dampening effect on the market. So now let's dig into some of the real estate data. And as I like to do, we're going to look at both the national numbers and the local numbers. And when I say local, we're talking about the Chicago area. The reason I think it's important to keep your eye on both, even though real estate is without a doubt a local market, is generally these trends have a tendency to move in sync. Now, the degree and the severity of the moves will vary by geography and by locale, but generally they do tend to trend in the same. And you can get a glimpse sometimes of what's coming by looking at both trends overall. So let's dig in. So let's take a look at sales overall. Now nationally, you're seeing a continued decline in overall sales. Now this is data from the National Association of Realtors for June, and it runs behind what I can get locally. So unfortunately, they're not exactly synced up, but you'll still get the idea of the trend. So sales for detached single-family homes was down 3.3% month over month, and it's down approximately 19% year over year. So the trend continues to see a sales decline for single-family detached homes, with detached homes being down 19% year over year, and attached down 23% compared to last year. What it showed last month was that the decrease in sales wasn't across the board for all price ranges. However, it really evened up this month. As you can see now, there's not a giant difference between the various priced houses like there was last month. So I think you're seeing what's been happening, which is the sales decline, is actually now starting to hit all the different price ranges. And that is a difference from where we were before. High-end homes more than the mid to lower priced homes. So now let's take a look at how fast things are actually selling in this market. So the days on the market, or the time it takes to sell a house, is continuing to creep up. The median for single-family detached homes is now 49 days, and that's up approximately 25% from last year. And attached is at 49 days as well. But that's actually a decline from last year of about 4%. So the market is pretty steady from where we were last year with detached homes, but time on the market continues to increase for attached homes. you're still seeing the actual time it takes to sell creep up. Now, this is very different than where we were at the peak last year, where things went on the market and you had offers literally within 24 or 48 hours, and typically multiple offers. Anecdotally, we're definitely seeing that slowing down pretty dramatically here. There are still homes that do go very quickly, but a lot of homes are taking longer to sell, getting a lot fewer showings, a lot less activity, and a lot fewer situations where we're here getting multiple offers on homes. So now let's take a look at inventory. Again, this is a market that's really deprived of inventory, and it's been that way for a long time. Now, nationally, inventory has been slowly increasing over the last 5 months by about 12%, but it's still low relative to historical norms. Now, in this graph, when we take a look at Chicago, we're still seeing a market that's actually much more inventory constrained than we're seeing nationally. The Chicago inventory has been pretty static the last 3 months. Now, detached single-family inventory has ticked up a little bit over the last 2 months, but it's still down approximately 35%. And detached inventory has been pretty static over the last 3 months, but we're still down 37% from last year. So, I don't care what price range you're going to look at, inventory is going to still feel very constrained. Your choices are going to feel limited. Now, even though they're limited, we're not seeing, as I mentioned, that same competitive pressure that we saw a year ago. And anecdotally, it just feels in the last month like things have slowed down. Now, that could be because it's midsummer, vacations, getting ready to send kids to school, etc. We'll see what happens in September, mid-September, when that would typically pick up if that was the case. And we look at what's coming. I like to look at the number of new listings. And as you can see in this graph that shows the Chicago area new listings, it's not happening. In other words, we're not seeing so many new listings coming on that that's going to really impact inventory in the near future. So I don't expect to see this change much between today and next month. The thing that we keep hearing is that people that want to sell are concerned they're not going to be able to find something because of the lack of inventory. Or they're going to be forced to choose something that really isn't what they want. And because inventory is constrained, and while they're not the same pressures that we had a year ago in terms of so many deals having, 3, 4, 5 offers, you still need to put competitive offers in. And again, I reference our video library on preparing competitive offers. If you want to get an update on the things that you can do if you find a house that you really love and want to have, you want to take a look at that video to make sure that your offer is as compelling as it could be. So now let's take a look at something that measures the balance between the available inventory and the current demand, and that's month's supply of inventory. And as we've discussed, some kind of rough rules of thumb is when you see month's supply of inventory under 3 months, that's typically a seller's market. When you see inventory between 3 and 6 months, that indicates a more neutral market. And when you see inventory greater than 6 months, that's generally a buyer's market. Again, individual houses might be in demand. You might see way more competition than that relative measure would indicate, but it's just a good overall thing to look at. Now, when we look at the national numbers, you'll see that the month supply of inventory is rising, and we're over 3 months supply for both detached and attached. Now, what we'll need to keep our eye on is this continuing to rise, or is this just a short-term aberration? Here locally, we're seeing a different picture. In the Chicago area, we're still really low on inventory relative to sales. Now, locally, we're seeing a very different picture. Both detached and attached single-family home inventory. Attached is holding steady at about 1.7 months supply. And as I mentioned, those are well below the 3-month supply. So it indicates that pricing power and power in general for negotiation is still weighing on the side of the sellers locally. So as long as we stay in this low amount of inventory, you're likely going to see prices holding, if not slightly increasing. I think rates are going to keep prices from slightly increasing, but I think they're going to hold because of the low inventory. Now let's take a look at what inventory and interest rates and demand are doing to prices. Nationally, we saw housing prices dip a little bit at the beginning of this year, but that's changed in the last few months. We've been seeing a slight uptick in pricing for both detached and attached homes. However, we're still down year over year. For detached homes, we're down 1.2% from where we were at this time last year, and for attached homes, we're down 1.9% from where we were last year. Now, regionally, we're seeing a similar picture. Housing prices were up 1.4% for detached single-family homes month over month, but we're down 3% year over year. Attached homes, we were down 2.5% month to month, but we're actually up 6.8% year over year. So the fact that pricing seems a little bit stronger locally, I think, is a reflection of the fact that we just don't have a lot of inventory. As we discussed, we've got 3 months supply of inventory nationally. We've got just over 1.5 months supply of inventory locally. That's going to have an impact on pricing, even with rates still high. So I think it's really important for us to take a look at affordability. Now, what affordability is, it looks at the median pay and the median house price, and it compares those to create an index. Now, I mentioned this in the last video, but before the real estate boom and pricing started, this index was at 170. And today, we're 100 or lower most places. So that's a dramatic drop in affordability. And now, of course, that's a combination of things that go into that. Income goes into that, house prices goes into that, and mortgage rates go into that. So as you can see, we've got this situation where we've got low inventory, but a higher mortgage, and we've had inflation eating into people's compensation. So it's had a pretty negative impact on the affordability index. You can see that the affordability index sits at about 88, and it's been declining every month since January. Now let's take a look at how we're doing locally. For detached single family, we're sitting at 83. Again, that's not a strong reading. And for detached, we're sitting at 105. What this basically means is a lot fewer people that can afford homes today than there was a year or two ago. So when you combine mortgage rates, affordability index, I think those things are going to help keep a lid on pricing, if not seeing pricing decline, even though inventory locally is still very low. And I think it's going to take either a decrease in the rates or an increase in real wages or a decrease in home prices before you're going to see a more robust number of transactions occurring again. So overall, we've got a little bit of a mixed environment. We've got locally low inventory, low affordability, high prices, and pretty high mortgage rates relative to where they've been over the last 5 years. We still haven't seen inventory rise much in the Chicago area, but I have a feeling that's coming. And of course, there's always the geopolitical stuff, that could have a significant impact at any time on markets overall. And we can't predict that. So again, thanks for listening. And I'm Kevin Rowe, and I'm part of the Rowe team. And we've focused on the Chicago northwest suburbs and Lake County for over 30 years. And if there's anything we can do to help you, any questions we can answer or help you find a house or sell your house, we'd love to help. I'd also recommend you take a look at our YouTube channel. There's a lot of really helpful videos about various communities and about various issues that you might face either buying or selling a house. We'd like to help you be educated so that you can make the best decision on what's likely the largest financial investment you'll ever make. Again, thanks for listening. If you like what you see, please like the video, share the video, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks again, and we look forward to speaking with you soon.